What's going on, you bunch of heathens? Turns out yesterday I was mistaken. I thought yesterday was Friday, not Thursday. So we are still doing Night Witches. But today we're going to be doing Sabaton history on them. Part 1 and 2 together. And then Monday will be this song. Sorry for getting y'all's hopes up, but unfortunately I had my days mixed up. Either way, I do hope y'all enjoy this. Without further ado, let's jump in. Before I forget, as always, originals link below. Go and give them their love.
When you think of the soldiers fighting the Second World War, you probably think of men with machine guns.
However, in our song Night Witches, we're singing about badass women in bomber planes.
Hey, by the way, thank you to everyone who told me about this channel. I think it's super cool that it's basically... Sabaton got super big. I think it's fucking hilarious that Sabaton is a band that got famous over making music about history. They're a bunch of history nerds, which I think is hilarious.
The large
I wonder if that's part of their of the song.
The Soviet Union in the late 1920s
I'm assuming
and
it is.
1930s opened up the country's economy for women in the workplace, and there was indeed no job for which a woman could not apply. Soviet propaganda encouraged them to join the workforce and steer the great machines of modernization. And the most fantastic symbol of that particular age of machines was the airplane. Many were inspired by Soviet heroine Marina Raskova, who set world records for long-distance flights.
That's cool.
Showing what pilots and planes from the Soviet Union could achieve. Newly emerging and quite popular flying clubs were also a chance for many women to escape the monotony, or the poverty, of their homes and learn how to become an aircraft mechanic or even a pilot themselves.
That's really cool.
1941. Weeks after the German invasion, hundreds of thousands of Soviet women flocked to the colors, enlisting as nurses, signalers, or anti-aircraft gunners. The experienced female pilots of the flying club served as instructors and advisors for male.
I do know about a lot of, I know female snipers. Or at least one, especially, is one that I remember. And I'm pretty sure Soviet Union had quite a few women in their ranks. I mean, technically all the allies, everyone did, but you know what I mean, though.
Recruits, but were not allowed themselves to fly into combat. The argument was that there were enough male pilots available. Marina Raskova, however, was determined to make a difference. With her influence in Moscow's political circles as a hero of the Soviet Union, she appealed to Stalin himself and got permission to create 3 all-female flying units. The
Damn, that's some political clout.
The 587 Heavy Bomber Regiment and the 588 Night Bomber Regiment. Raskova was a natural leader, and her call for volunteers was soon answered by hundreds of young women from all over the Soviet Union.
Doesn't really surprise me.
Into the ranks of elite female pilots. By mid-October, as confusion and chaos swept Moscow in the face of the rapid German advance, Raskova had set up her training camp at the large aerodrome in the city of Engels on the Volga River. There, the women of the 3 regiments were to be trained with planes, engines, armaments, and aeronautical studies and military drills. While the college-educated women were trained as navigators, those with factory or armory experience would work as mechanics. Naturally, all volunteers wanted to become
of course, that's how it always goes.
But only the most talented and experienced pilots were accepted into the fighter regiment. They needed lightning-quick reactions and the ability to remain calm in battle. The professional pilots with many hours of experience were put into the Heavy Bomber Regiment, led by Raskova herself. Those with less experience were put into the Night Bomber Regiment. But those women may have needed the greatest courage of them all.
I mean, yeah. Night bombing's fucking scary as shit. Dude, I can't wait to hear the full song now. This sounds dope.
The night bombers were to fly the Polikarpov U-2, a flimsy biplane compared to then modern dive bombers. It had been designed and manufactured since the late 1920s and was used most often as a training plane. It had two cockpits, one for the student and one for the instructor. It was a small and slow aircraft made from lightweight plywood and percale, which was finely woven fabric made out of cotton. It was cheap to manufacture, unimpressive and outdated, but nonetheless a reliable workhorse for transporting the wounded, dropping supplies, or reconnaissance flights. The Soviets nicknamed it the crop duster or the duck, while to the Germans it was to be known as the sewing machine or the plywood Russ, since it was totally defenseless and too slow to outrun any of the German fighter planes. It could only operate in the safety of night.
God, that's scary as shit.
Could bring it down fairly easily. But the overall situation was so bleak that even those little planes became symbols of hope and resistance. Over time, the women began to appreciate the simplicity of the crop duster, especially since the women of the heavy bomber regiment had to fly the Su-2, which was nicknamed the bitch because of how difficult it was to master. But
I love it when vehicles.
Ideology,
I love it when vehicles and shit get nicknames like that. They're fucking. I love that. It's hilarious to me.
Equality between the sexes. Russian machismo was pretty merciless, wearing boots, tunics, and greatcoats way too large for them since they were designed for men. The women were constantly mocked and teased by their male counterparts for their lack of femininity. But this only hardened their determination, since to them a soldier was a soldier. Raskova ordered.
I'm sorry, bro. Military tomboy? What's better than that? I want a tomboy that can fucking bench press me.
The women to crop their hair, and the battalion's commissar forbade anything she saw as girl talk and prohibited any sort of flirtatious behavior.
I mean,
by late May,
wartime, all-female unit. I get it. I guess.
Aircraft to prepare for combat. By summer, they left the aerodrome for the southwestern front to meet the German advance on Stalingrad and the Caucasus. As Axis forces were advancing on Rostov, Raskova's night bombers hit the German ammunition and fuel dumps, the vehicles, and the ground troops. Now, it was the navigator's job to find the target and close in on enemy lines. Then the pilot would turn off the engine and silently glide through the night.
Smart move.
First planes would throw down flares to illuminate the targets, and the loads would be dropped. Then they would turn on their engines and escape before the Germans could fight back. The U-2s were converted to bombers by simple, at first improvised attachments. A bomb load of up to 300 kilos was slung under the wings. Okay, this was not enough to inflict a lot of damage, but that wasn't the main purpose of the night bombers.
No, it was to affect morale. It was to fuck with them to make it seem like, yeah, you're never safe from us. It's a scare tactic.
They were to constantly harass the enemy.
Yeah, harassment attacks.
Sleep and wear them down to grant them no rest periods. And for that, the Germans hated them. After learning that the night bombers were usually piloted by women, they would give them their famous nickname, the Nachthexen, the Night Witches.
Such a cool name.
The women came back with red faces,
the Night
and bloodshot
Hexen. Like,
eyes.
that's such a cool name.
They rebuilt their lives around their nocturnal life, having dinner in the morning and going straight to bed. They were constantly tired and hungry, but they were sure proud of showing the Soviet Union that women could fly as well as any man. And with every
in a
successful
shittier
mission,
plane,
they earned more respect from the male pilots and officers. But that would not protect them from the constant danger they faced. They had no parachutes, since Soviet high command figured that in case of engine failure, the planes could simply glide back to Earth. This totally disregarded the fact that the percale cotton fabric and plywood frame burned like crazy. And if that ever happened, it was likely
smart move,
pilot
guys,
and navigator burned to death. But to Soviet high command, that was still preferable to being captured alive by the Germans. In fact, those who were shot down or crashed behind enemy lines were expected to fight to the death, as capture was dishonorable to any Soviet soldier and would leave a stigma for the rest of their lives. Even pilots who
Just
were
what we
shot
need,
down
more stigma in
behind
World
the
War II.
lines, but hid and made it safely back to their own lines, were interrogated and often condemned to death by the commissars.
Jesus,
January 4th,
Soviets.
1943, Roskova died in an accident on her way to the Stalingrad front. But the 588 was determined to live by her ideals. And as one pilot wrote, it was a time for bombing and bombing.
Oh, yeah.
The Soviet counterattack prompted the hasty withdrawal of the Germans from the Caucasus and gave the Night Witches more than enough opportunities to harass and attack the retreating troops. From the steppes near Stalingrad to the high mountains of the Caucasus, the praise for the Night Witches grew. The freezing winter nights through which they flew at high altitudes with open cockpits did not discourage the women from fulfilling their missions. In fact,
Hell yeah.
only once were they forced to remain grounded for a time. On the night of July 31st,
I'm gonna assume really bad
1943,
weather.
during the German counteroffensive on the Taman Peninsula in Novorossiysk, the Night Witches approached the German positions and noticed that the anti-aircraft batteries were strangely silent. Suddenly, flares lit up the sky. It was a German night fighter attack, and in moments, U-2 planes were falling out of the skies, burning to the ground. The survivors broke off, scattering back into the darkness. Such high casualties in one night were a shock to the regiment, but one that didn't last long. The war that eventually turned against the German invaders brought the witches further to the west, to the Kuban, to the Krim, to Belarus, to Poland, and eventually Germany itself. Sometimes they made up to a dozen sorties a night, with only a few minutes of breaks in between. There are many stories of those young women who came from many different backgrounds and who did share their own personal tales of heroism, tragedy, and idealism. We were young and fearless. The fear came later, one of the survivors would.
Dude, I gotta read up on some of this shit. These are some of the coolest stories. They really are.
Recall. Heroic achievements and accomplishments led to more heroes of the Soviet Union than any other Soviet bomber regiment, 23 by the end of the war, with usually at least 800 sorties made.
Damn!
After the war, and after the regiment was disbanded, their commissar, Yevdokia Rachkevich, took it upon herself to personally search for the crash sites of every last one of her lost flyers to provide an accurate history of the regiment and the women that served and fought with it.
That's awesome. Looks like a hell. Damn, that looks like a hell of a fucking thing.
That was a really good description, right? So how did you guys decide to choose this?
Actually,
I mean,
you know, when we
that name right there, badass women in bombers and planes. Like, how is that not self-explanatory?
we started doing research for heroes, this was one of the first that came up for us. Yeah, that's been in our what do you call it? Secret Sabaton archive for a while.
All right.
And yeah, we just thought it was a perfect way to open the album as well.
Yeah.
We have a tradition of doing something surprising for the first song, and
Hell yeah.
that massive opening was a perfect way to start off the album.
It sounds like it.
And then the tempo change into the
Oh
chorus.
yeah, sorry, you're right. Yeah, and we did something different there also with the chorus being half beat compared to the rest of the song, and which is something I really hate.
But if you hate it, why did you allow it to happen in this instance?
It's the only time I actually thought it worked.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's cool. Took something he
suggested-
hated and was like,
said,
oh.
hey, come on, let's do this. And you said,
Oh, I did that to myself.
oh, okay.
So-
I like that. Like, oh, no, I usually hate that, but this is the one time where I found that it actually works out.
But no, I remember so clearly when we were doing the PR for this album. It's a couple of years ago now, but I was doing an interview and I was in the final stages of doing something else. I was in the studio. Interviewer was a bit nervous, I should say, and not used to doing interviews. And we had like, I think a regular 30-minute interview. I was on the phone. He asked me to tell something. Ola, you have a lot of stories. Could you tell me something from the album, you know, story-wise? And I started, yeah, well, I can make an example out of the first out of the first song, and I started telling the story of the Night Witches.
Okay.
And I got a little bit carried away, you know,
Yeah,
because I was proud of the song and the story.
Hell yeah,
so I,
be proud.
Got carried away, and I probably spoke for about 8 minutes about only that song and the story about it. When I was finished, it got silent, and then I hear, okay, and the next song?
Oh gosh.
Oh, that's funny. Just
So, now, what was the
I was
reception
hoping.
for Night Witches?
I love that. Just I was hoping to get a basis on like the entire album, but okay.
You know, I mean, was this because this is not something that's familiar to people?
No. The story in itself is fantastic, no matter if it would have been men or women.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
fact
yeah.
that it is women, it's a extra nice bonus, I think.
Yeah.
And
It's very Soviet Union too.
yes, and it's still a part of our live set, very popular with the fans and us as well. I think we have some of the coolest pyro and video stuff going on that song as well.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to check out the video.
I actually really enjoy playing that because we all I guess go off stage.
God, that's a big ass
right
venue.
before that song starts, and I sing the intro off stage, and I just get running in on the first boom of the verse.
Him coming out like a bat out of hell.
But I have a very important question that I'm pretty certain everybody, not only everybody who watches Sabaton history, but everybody who's ever seen Sabaton or listened to Sabaton wants to know.
Okay, what?
Now, Night Witches, right? They to avoid any outward appearances of too much femininity and stuff because of problems with the male soldiers and stuff. They all cut their hair really short. They all crop their hair, right? One, do you think any of them had your hairstyle?
I certainly hope not.
And two, do we
Wouldn't
have any
surprise
pictures
me.
of you when you were a kid with like the same? Did you have the same like?
I was born like this.
I can imagine it.
All right, Joachim. Well, thank you very much for this today.
Thank you very much.
You know, I always love talking to you about these songs. All right, well, we'll see you next time
Thank you all.
on Sabaton History.
Okay, we're jumping straight into the next one.
I'm Per from Sabaton.
I'm Spartacus from Sabaton History.
And I'm Indy Nidell, and as you noticed, I am not the main host of this episode. The reason why, as some of you will know from the World War II and Time Ghost channels, is that I have the coronavirus. I'm a lot
Damn,
better
COVID.
now. I was sick for 3 weeks or so. I didn't have to be hospitalized, and I didn't have the big breathing problems, but it was pretty nasty anyhow. But I still can't.
This must
have
be during the
anyone
height
into my
of
place, and I can't leave my
COVID.
place, which means I can't properly do any lighting or filming. So Per and Spartacus are going to do this episode together. Take it away, guys.
I heard it. I heard the ceiling bird chirp.
In the first episode about Night Witches, we talked about the female bombers.
But there are a lot of other women that fought valiantly in different wars. And we're looking at a few of those in this episode of Sabaton History.
Ooh, okay. Or is this all just only female? I mean, I'll continue on. I'll finish this episode out.
In Night Witches Part 1, Indy told
Dude,
you
that's
the story
such a
of the
cool
Soviet
set. I love that set.
588th all-female night bomber regiment who were known as the Night Witches by the Germans.
And an amazing mustache.
On whom they inflicted such misery. But they weren't the only ones who deserve remembrance for their deeds during the war. Today, let's look at some other badass women of that conflict who put themselves in danger either on or behind the front
French
lines in
resistant.
service of their
Russian sniper. Don't know. I'm assuming you're a French revolutionary or French resistance, not revolutionary, resistance. And I don't know. Yeah.
country. When Lyudmila Pavlichenko was a teenager
That's her.
in Kiev, she joined
Pavlichenko.
one of the many paramilitary clubs of the Soviet Union. These were not only to keep reservists in shape, but were also open to the public. Pavlichenko
That's
was
cool.
a born athlete and a natural with a rifle. She trained hard to outshine the boys, and she earned her marksman certificate and sharpshooter badge with ease. During the late 1930s, she enrolled into Kiev University to study history, like all badasses do.
Hell
She
yeah.
also aced at sniping school of the Soviet Red Army. The week of the German invasion in June 1941, Pavlichenko was among the first female volunteers to stand in front of the recruiting office in Odessa. At first, they urged her to become a nurse, but Pavlichenko insisted that she wanted to fight with the infantry. A quick examination of her badges and certificates was enough to convince the recruiters, and she was sent off to serve in the 25th.
I mean, kind of a surprise that even though she was qualified for it, she still got in. Everyone knows no matter what country you're in, military and government is just, I don't care if you're actually qualified for it, you're not getting in type of shit.
Shapayev Rifle Division. She was to become one of 2,000 female snipers in the Red Army.
Hey, I didn't know there was that many.
Only 500 of them would survive.
Oh.
The story goes that while her division was awaiting the advances of Axis forces on Odessa,
God, 75% death toll.
Snipers to harass the enemy. At first, Pavlichenko was paralyzed by fear as the Axis advanced on her position. But suddenly, the young man next to her was killed by an enemy bullet. That snapped her right out of the fear. She took his scope Mosin Nagant bolt action rifle, scored her first 2 kills of the war.
I've never heard a Mosin Nagant called a Mosin. Like I've heard Mosin Nagant, Nagant. Never heard it Mosin. Always heard it Mosin.
The first of many. In just 2 months of fighting for Odessa, she is said to have killed 187 Axis soldiers.
Damn!
After Odessa fell in October, her unit was taken back to Sevastopol on the Crimea, awaiting yet another siege. By May 1942, she had really made a name for herself and was promoted to lieutenant after marking her 257th kill. She was sent out on even more dangerous missions like counter-sniping, which was a duel to the death with enemy snipers. Pavlichenko killed 36 of them. After being hit in the face by mortar shrapnel in June, Soviet High Command took her out of the line, though. She was a well-known hero and was now too valuable to lose in combat. She was
standard practice that I've heard plenty of times.
Sniper with an official total kill of 309.
I can't wait to get to this song. I'm probably gonna have to check it out right after I finish filming this.
Once she left the hospital, Pavlichenko became a propaganda tool. She was sent overseas to Canada and the US on a publicity tour. She was the first common Soviet citizen received at the White House. Pavlichenko spoke freely to the crowds about her experiences at the front, how the man she loved was killed soon after their marriage, and of the terror the Germans had inflicted on her home. But while the public found this really interesting, the press seemed typically more interested in the length of her skirts, and the look of her masculine uniform. And
of course.
Like if the girl sniper.
Standard fucking press bullshit. You don't hate the press enough.
Wore makeup at the front. Pavlichenko remarked that the Americans should worry less about the looks of her uniform and more about what it represented. There were plenty of Americans who understood that, of course. Although Virginia Hall had lost her leg during a hunting accident.
Oh, is this the peg lady? I have heard of her then.
That.
Yeah, this is the peg woman.
Career in travel. Hall spoke several languages fluently and had a keen interest in European politics, but when she applied to become a diplomat overseas, the U.S. Department of State was reluctant to hire a handicapped woman. Hall, however, was determined. In 1940,
yeah, because she was denied multiple times despite being qualified for it.
Hall was serving as a volunteer ambulance driver in France. Retreating from the German invasion, she heaved wounded French soldiers into her truck, driving them to safety under constant threat of attack after attack from the air. After France fell, she escaped to Spain, where she made the acquaintance of a British intelligence officer. The officer was intrigued by Hall's dedication to fighting the Nazis and put her in contact with the newly formed Special Operations
SOE, holy shit.
The SOE was trying to infiltrate occupied Europe, but so far, the 50-50 chance for agents to survive the first weeks after insertion did not bring in many.
God, 50-50, that's horrible.
Although the agency was reluctant to deploy a handicapped woman, They decided to put Hall into Section F, France.
Well, shit, we ain't getting many recruits. Fuck it. We ball.
By April 1941, she had been inserted into Vichy, France, and occupied a safe house in the city of Lyon. Her cover was that of a reporter from the New York Post, who was there to gather stories about life under the new regime. The first thing she had to learn was to move around without being suspicious. She had different outfits and hairstyles prepared and made use of heavy makeup and disguises when she needed to turn into a different person for a while. It was doubt that kept her alive, and a strong sense for danger was her best ally. Hal knew when to lay low when the French police was raiding houses or watching meeting points of suspected SOE agents. Nonetheless, she soon built up her own network.
Yeah,
of
they also
informers
wouldn't
and worked
really.
closely.
They also didn't really. If I remember the story correctly, they also didn't really suspect a woman with a disability of being a spy. At least I think that's how this. It's been a while since I watched the story on her.
With the French resistance. Over the winter of 1941-42, she used a brothel to hide exposed agents or British pilots that had been shot down over France before smuggling them out to Spain.
Yay,
The most
that
famous
works.
feat was an actual prison break where Hall's network freed several agents from a French prison. By mid-1942, her activities attracted more and more attention from the German secret police. And after the prison break stunt, they began cracking down hard on the resistant movements for which Lyon had become a hotspot. Hall even attracted the attention of the Gestapo leader Klaus Barbie, known as the Butcher of Lyon, who
Hey,
supposedly
Barbie!
said that
Sorry.
he
I shouldn't
couldn't
have said
wait
that.
to get his hands on that limping bitch.
Yes, because they
After
eventually
the Allied
found out
invasion of
that
North
she
Africa,
was
in
limping.
November 1942,
I believe.
France became too dangerous for Hall, and she fled the country. She then joined the
And then, like, it came out that it was limping, and then she had to. I think she like trained herself to not limp or something like that. I want to say, I'm not positive.
OSS American Intelligence. Although the OSS was at first, like everyone, reluctant to employ a handicapped woman, by 1944, Hall was back operating in France. Disguised
Yet again, I love that. My record speaks for itself. I am a very qualified for this position. But you're missing a leg. It doesn't matter that you already did all this shit before. With your handicap in general, like, so fucking stupid.
as an old woman, she supported several resistance groups and prepared safe houses for agents in the south of France until the Germans retreated. Virginia Hall had survived far longer than many other agents, and she laid the groundwork for many espionage techniques that are still in use today. But she had to fight hard to do it, not only against the enemy, but against all the doubt from within the ranks of her own.
Yeah, she a badass.
Before the war, Simone
Yes,
Segouin
I was right,
had
for
lived
French
a
resistance.
normal teenage life southwest of Paris. Her father had been politically active in her hometown and was very vocal against the German occupation.
Damn, so she really was a
Greatly
teen during all of
his
this.
patriotism. Now, he had fought in the Great War as a volunteer. In this war, she wanted to do her part. The German conscripted her to work as a seamstress in Paris, a big mistake in hindsight, because in her workplace, she made contact with members of the underground resistance. They fixed her a fake passport under the name of Nicole Minet from Dunkirk. Her first mission was to prove herself to the resistance and steal a bicycle from a German officer. She then used that bike to transport secret messages between resistance members in the town of Chartres. As a young woman, she was less conspicuous
To go
and
steal a
had an
bike.
easier time moving around among the German soldiers than a man would. Always on the lookout
Makes
for
sense.
high-profile targets, Segouin was soon involved in several sabotage and demolition missions in the area. The young, courageous, and reliable woman made such an impression on the resistance fighters that they trained her in the use of firearms. As the war neared its end, Segouin's unit took to street fighting the retreating German soldiers during the liberation of Chartres. Segouin, submachine gun in hand, assisted in arresting 25 German soldiers. Then, the famous war photographer Robert Capa came upon her unit, and he took the famous picture of Simone
Yes!
Segouin with her German submachine gun.
Like, this is such a badass photo. I love this photo. I've seen this photo so much, and it's such a cool photo.
Segouin soon became a symbol for the young generation that fought against the German occupation, for resistance valued courage and activism, no matter the gender. The idea that women can be warriors equal to men is maybe best visually depicted in the photo
Yugoslav.
of Kozarchanka. In the winter of
Okay,
1942,
I've never heard of her before.
The renowned war photographer George Skrigin traveled through the region of Kozara in the western Bosnia. There, he encountered a group of guerrilla fighters. See, by this time, large parts of Yugoslavia had come under
say
the effective
guerrilla?
control of partisans
Or guerrilla?
who were fairly successfully fighting the Axis occupation. Skrigin approached the partisan leader and asked if he could take pictures of the group. Among the female medics was the 17-year-old Milja Toroman, a Bosnian Serb who grew up in a small village near
Damn, she
Kozara.
young.
Wearing a cardigan, Milja swung a rifle over her shoulder, adjusted her titovka cap, and smiled as she turned her head. At that moment, Skrigin took the photo. In 1968,
damn, she
long
photogenic as
after
shit,
the victory
huh?
of the partisans, Skrigin published this photograph in a book of his war photography. There, Milja became Kozarchanka, the girl from Kozara. Skrigin simply described her as a young girl who had fled Germany.
I prefer the subtitle version of that more. The daughter of Kozara. Instead of the girl. I like the subtitle title
joined
more.
the partisans to fight the fascists. The photograph was a huge hit, and Kozarchanka became a Yugoslavian icon. She embodied the
As she
partisan
should be.
struggle and was a perfect fit for the propaganda of the communist Yugoslav state. It was a symbol that despite the danger of war, the partisans remained enthusiastic about their coming victory. Kozarchanka smiled, expressed confidence and optimism. Her girlish innocence contrasted by the rifle across her shoulder. The true identity behind Kozarchanka was not ever revealed until the collapse of Yugoslavia. Yet, though it was
Good
a
on you
staged
guys.
photograph, Milja still remained
Good on them for keeping her fucking identity secret. Like, good on them.
a symbol, not only of the struggle of the Yugoslav partisans and the many women that fought in it, but the many women who fought for their beliefs, their nations, and their freedom during that great conflict, as well or even better than any man ever could.
Oh, so how are we ending this off? Wonder.
So, but Per, despite that you're a metal band and you sing about something very, very male, war, you have a lot of female fans, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who think
Bro, metal in history has no gender. And unfortunately, war isn't restricted to an age or gender. So the whole idea, that's an idea I've always hated, that war is for men. It's like, I mean, unfortunately, history has proven that is definitely not. Is war primarily fought by men? Yes. But it is not restricted to those genders. And history, and God, along with metal war, history is also not confined by gender or age. I know plenty of history nerds that are women.
that Sabaton only have male fans because it would suit the topic. Obviously, these days it's very easy to get some statistics and of who is coming to the shows, who is listening to our music and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And,
that's really cool that you're able to actually get the
because
statistics.
Of a project that I was working on, I was collecting a lot of statistics, especially from the last tour and from a lot of other things. And
Yeah, what are your guys' analytics?
30 to 40, 45% is the females that are showing up at our concerts.
Oh, that's cool.
Sticks out with a little bit.
That's a pretty good.
Of, women present. So
That's a pretty
I don't know
good.
if it's, that we are so attractive that the girls come, or
That's a pretty good statistic, actually. All things considered.
that they just like that we sing heavy metal songs. But I'm very happy to have the diversity of this.
And you have an all-female fan club as well, right?
Yes, we do, and it ties to this this episode because obviously they are the Sabaton witches, so it's the all-female regiment of.
Dude, that's actually dope. Oh, what's your fan club called? We're the Sabaton Witches. We took inspiration from the Night Witches. That's such a cool. That's so cool.
Hey, and we also have the newest member of our team, Maria. She runs a doom metal club in Stockholm when she's
fuck
not
is
working
doom
for us,
metal?
and that's yet another.
I've
female
never heard of that.
Oh yeah, I mean absolutely. And in the next, we're going to introduce Maria properly in the next episode, because you guys who are part of the different tiers on the Sabaton History Patreon group, you will have a lot to do with Maria in the future, because she's taking over all of that. She already did. She's already taken over that.
Oh, that's
India
cool.
Pear, talking about patrons and our exclusive content that we make for patrons, there's something exciting coming up on Sunday, right?
Yeah, that's true. We're gonna have a streaming session, including me, Joachim, and you, Indy.
And me.
And we're gonna talk about different things. Talk to the patrons and answer a couple of questions.
The Patriots, they're bosses.
And have a little bit of interactive online hangout meeting with patrons.
Yeah, like half an hour or so, something like that, for a little while. Yeah.
Yeah, we've already started collecting questions from the patrons. So it's going to work like, yeah, it's going to be fun. And it's going to work like this. The patrons get to ask questions and are actually there live for the live stream. But we are going to put the live stream up after it's done so that you can view it on YouTube as well if you
That's nice of
are
them.
unfortunate enough to not be part.
Like, hey, if you don't have the money to support us, you still get to see it. You just don't get to see it live. That's nice.
Of the exclusive and wonderful group that is the Sabaton History Patreon group.
Great. Hopefully I won't be so interrupted by a Russian team of climbers that is the first people I see in a while that is actually climbing down on my balcony right now using ropes, making this look like some kind of insertion of special forces. I'm not sure what they actually plan to do, but
I love how he's just looking over at them.
If I'm abducted soon, this will be a very legendary broadcast.
If I'm not there on Sunday, you know what happened.
That's for sure.
Pear, abducted by Spetsnaz in the middle of the Corona crisis.
Yeah, that would be a story for sure.
Yeah, it would.
So, but you're in Moscow right now, Pear, right?
Yeah, I've been in Moscow since the ending of our tour. In March, we had a tour in Russia, and we had to cancel it after the Corona put on.
Oh, damn, he's in Moscow?
And since then, I've been here. So I'm actually working on some interesting projects for the future. Something that I think a lot of people have been looking forward and will be quite surprised when we launch. So I'm not sitting here and feeling horrible and locked in for another reason. So we have something really cool coming up in some years from now on, but it's a big project, so it started already now.
Well, that is it for today, ladies and gentlemen. But I and Pear and maybe even Sparty
I like
will
this.
see you
This is
soon.
This is cool. Not really about night witches, but this was just cool in general.
Thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, that was cool. That was Sabaton History, Night Witches Part 1 and 2. Even though Part 2 didn't really have a whole lot for the Night Witches, but it was still cool to learn about more history and shit, as always. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, you guys take care of yourselves. See ya.